feel. Breeze drifting on by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. Yeah. Turn on your mind now. Tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control. Late night in Moscow, where nothing ever happens. Life grows in the moonlight, no escape. White light yonder lurking, knife in the door.
Paranoid searches for a fall, vision ride. Under surveillance, nowhere to hide. Influence creeps like blood on the floor. Fine line between peace and war. From campus to crypt, the script lips tragic, mystic and twisted. Magic turn manic. Walk through lingers, but the echo remain. Chains of the slain and eternal pain.
And here we go.
Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? Let me double check the audio, make sure everything's coming in loud and clear. Let me double check the audio. Oh, yeah. Buckle up for tonight, Hive. We are going to be debriefing the first handful of phases that I just wrapped up with the King Road files, talking about Brian Kohberger and how he got himself connected to the Idaho 4. So tonight, we are going to finish up with that part of the files, and we're going to be talking about the fact that Bill Thompson, at the end of all this, after what we just saw Brian's progression was going through WSU and the funding and Dr. David Macon, emailing with Police Chief Gary Jenkins, to how he was arrested with the SWAT raid, having 50 SWAT officers have guns in his face, going through the window, just to have Brian Kohberger asked about baseball, WSU football. And at the end of the not verbatim summary that Payne and Gilbertson put out, they don't even say, and then we place Brian under arrest. Well, now we're going to go to Bill Thompson's role in this and how Bill Thompson stands up during the plea deal and sentencing and says, now I will admit we cannot be able to, or we cannot put him in the house. And I just saw a comment about the camera. Oh, no. Yeah. So unfortunately it kind of reset, but I tried to work through it, by the way. Nonetheless, we're going to be talking about Bill Thompson. I'm not going to be distracted by the mic and the camera. I think that everything still sounds fine. Mods, we all good? If it sounds weird, it's just the mic reset. So let's make sure, I guess, that that's all good, I guess, before I continue now. Little bit of an echo. Let me listen through it on my phone. 1 second. Little bit of an echo. Let me listen through it on my phone. 1 second. Okay. All right. We'll be okay. We'll be good, guys. I'm going to say what's up to everybody. After trying that the other way last night where I kind of got right into it, there were some people that were like, no, I like doing it. And if I need to, I can just skip ahead, or they like when I say what's up to everybody. I enjoy it too. So I'm going to say what's up to everybody. I wanted to lay out what we're going to be getting into. And as I say what's up, if you guys want to start typing the question of the day answers into the chat, that this is going to be the question for today. And that is, now that Broken Plea has been out a week or so, have you read it? What are your thoughts after the initial shock of some content in the book now that it's settled down? And as you all are typing them out, what's going on? Full Choke Media, Corgi Mama, Pinto Sack, Hibiscus Girl, Somerset, Yaz Lindsay, Shantae, Nicole Cray Cray, Tasha from the block, Miss Kim, Crop Duster, Bus Diablo, Blue Eyed Candy, Sorry Not Sorry, Lil Grizz Production says LFG, live in the Hive. Oh, hell no, 2486. Motherfunka. What's going on? Mariko, 1984. Ample Spark said, yes, it was a good read. Miss Lisa B tuning in from Manchester, England. I was going to say cheerio, but I don't feel like that's, well, I digress. Anna BD, Susie Lee, Mary Lou Teach Out, Boomer, Barbara, Shayske, Pop and Switch, Lynn Carbone. We got Beautiful Disaster, Roseanne, Scottish Fiona, love from the Scotland Hive. Dylan's a wanker, says the UFO dog. Maybe I'll do the whole stream in a below average Scottish accent. Wonder if that would go over well with everybody. Not Lamey Jamie. Glitter Party says I finished it yesterday. Gramilla. Mobile here said read the book. Genuinely confused. Tinfoil hat on 26. Tara B. Secret Soul Survivor. I said, do it. Hilde Azul, King up. 2 a.m.'s a witch hour. Doobie Karen. Sorry, not sorry. I don't know. Idaho. Glitter Party, Sleuth and Sweetheart, Sherry Brock, Towson DoorDash, Sakura Smiles, Shane Campbell. Chuck it in the fucking bucket. Pinto Sack. And let's get one more. Luther Dare, how are you doing? So let's talk about this, because the last few streams have been super information heavy, super presentation heavy, where I'm really not diving into the chat. I'd like to, as I was stating in the beginning, debrief on the first series that I did of the King Road Files, talking about Brian Koberger, and kind of compound that into the question of the day with, now that Broken Plea has been out, have you read it? And what are your thoughts? Initially, I don't know about you all, I was caught completely off guard by the reaction. I did not expect, I should say this. My initial thought was, this is going to be great. I was slightly surprised after seeing Chris Whitcomb and some of the chat and stuff in the interviews. That's to be expected with a case that has people extremely emotional. But I was shocked at how hard people went against Chris. And I feel, this is just my opinion, I feel like I've seen that die down. I think more people than not have actually started to come around to Chris. Would you all agree with that? And Hive, Crystal Folco says she needs a cool name. Any suggestions? Let's see. Okay, so Josh Sky said, yeah, he's a puss. He should have published everything he knows and state his opinion at the end of the book. Time for him to man up. They have an innocent man in jail for life. I don't think that that's a terrible take. I think there's something to be said about, at this point in the case, and the reality of it is he did not release everything that he had. Or if he tried to, his publishing company, from a legal standpoint, said that they took out 25 pages. So at a certain point, I'm sure Chris's hands were tied slightly with how much he could release. And as he stated, now Shannon says, I really think that people are just nitpicking Chris. Let me go back to Josh's comment. Let me finish that. I agree from the standpoint of, it would have been way more, what's the word I'm looking for? Beneficial to this movement of showing that something's not right in the Idaho 4 case if Chris would have just thrown everything out there. Chris could have released the 59,000 files and just thrown a cover page on it. And it probably, even though his book's already a top seller, it's at the top of the charts, I'm sure that those 59,000 pages, that might have outsold it if he just threw a cover page on it. But ultimately, I agree with the UFO dog. I think he had to be careful with what he said in the book. And Fiji makes a great point here. It's hard to earn trust when you resign. And why would the FBI just give him this to feed us this? You know, to me, there's a reason. That, I think, is what the majority of people's gut instinct or spidey instinct, sixth sense, whatever you want to call it, would be about Chris. Is there's this initial like, okay, so we've been not told the truth by a lot of people that hold public positions of power, whether it's the courts or the feds or local law enforcement, universities. Now we're having somebody in that same camp give us the information. What did you all think was the most explosive piece in the book? And I do apologize. If you haven't read the book, I'm sorry. Here's a quick, we'll do 2-3 minutes of this for a spoiler alert. If you're planning on reading it, you don't want the surprise ruined, or I don't know how you wouldn't probably know about most of it by now if you're tuning into people who are talking about the Idaho 4, but I'll start and I will say that I think the most shocking thing to me, I want to say the sheath on the floor from just the shock factor, but as far as how much, because the chain of custody being wrong and being sketchy, we already knew that. Now that the sheath being found on the floor, but pictured in the bed, yes, that's like a shock factor. But I think one of the most impactful things that the book did is it really shed a mainstream light onto the sketchiness of the roommates and the cleanup. Right. So the chain of custody on the sheath is now, I think it's the chain of custody that would probably be more impactful to Brian than the fact that they say that they found it on the ground. UFO Dog is saying the clump of hair in Ethan's fist. 1984 said nothing was tested. Birdie BB said the hair. Assman Unredacted asked, can I get it on Amazon? I believe it's still on Amazon. Yes. Beyond Reasonable Doubt said he was rushing and made a lot of mistakes. The Snapchat picture at 2:27 a.m. So it's so funny you bring this up, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, because when I got the digital copy ahead of time to prepare for the interview with Chris, I was going through this book and I thought to myself, and actually one of the first examples of it was, wait, so Bethany calling 911 was one. And we've talked about that on the stream, how it's kind of confusing. Bethany, Dylan, you'd think that would be very solidified, but there's various routes that people go with explaining the 911 call. Bethany's phone, or was Dylan talking? It was passed around. I thought he made a mistake when he originally brought up saying that Jack called Kaylee. I'm like, oh, he messed that up. He absolutely messed that up. It's actually Kaylee called Jack. So to your point, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, and why I say I'm glad you brought this up is, are there things in the mainstream media? Are there things that hadn't been officially released that we have almost spoke into existence without seeing some files? Right? I do wonder if there are little details that are completely different in the actual files. Blue Eyed Candy said there were some inconsistencies. And that's where, yeah, I mean, there was, right? But I remembered something else that just shocked me too. After hearing Lana and Chris talk, Chris was aware of the +6 placard situation with Payne and the numbering system for the photos. That threw me completely off that he was aware of it, because in the book, he doesn't mention it at all. In the book, he's talking about Xana's blood. And even on the interviews, he's talking about how it's Xana in the living room attacked and how somebody's chasing Xana, slinging blood. But then if you go listen to Lana's interview, he's fully aware of the placard situation. That part, I don't know how to interpret. Now, there's maybe something where how long ago, but that was out though. I was just going to say, how long prior would he be submitting for publishing and editing and last edits where you can't change it? Mark B said Birdie needs to ask Chris for those 25 pages. Yeah. Yes. I think people would pay really good money for those too. True to It said he's a pawn. Jeff said getting the Xana blood on Pong table was a big boo-boo. And I like to think in this manner, what Dominique said. It's like he's trying to tell us something, because I've put a poll out on this before. Whether you hated Chris or you liked Chris, I think that almost everybody would agree he was speaking in a way where you had to read between the lines. And also, the biggest benefit that came out of it is look at how much discussion around the sketchiness has made its way back onto social media. It's made its way back into the mainstream with caveats. Now you got, if people are still defending the original narrative of the state, you just are openly admitting, hi, everybody, I've not looked at one actual court document. All I've done is parrot my favorite creators or my favorite news anchor. I don't read anything, nor do I care to go outside of my comfort zone and maybe learn something that goes against what my initial opinion was. I can't change my mind. Write it on a piece of paper, stick it on your forehead. If you still believe the state's narrative, what you are really telling everybody is, I refuse to change my mind. I refuse to be wrong, and I will go down and die on this hill just to save my own thoughts in my own brain about I could have been wrong about this. And it's so obvious now, the people that can't change their mind on this. They want it to be Brian so bad. They want it to be Brian more than they want the truth to be found. These people that are saying it's Brian, it's so obvious, leave these victims alone, let them grieve, they got justice. They care more about it being Brian Koberger behind bars if it's the wrong person than they really do care about justice or any of that. And you can't tell me otherwise, because if you really wanted justice for the victims and you really were following this case, it would have smacked you over the head with a baseball bat that we've been lied to about it. Wet Bandit said, I agree. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Crop Duster 22 said, you saw somewhere that Brian Koberger's mom broke her silence. Well, I'm curious if they were referring to the book where they put that little excerpt in there of when Koberger got arrested. I think I saw that same article, and I think it was more of like a headline that says, Koberger's mom breaks her silence. But I think really what it was is that Whitcomb got a piece of the transcript that was able to be used in the book. Birdie BB23 said, you think with him being retired FBI, he published the book to get as much information as he could without getting his ass pulled into some mess with the FBI. Yeah, like he didn't want to get in trouble. I think it was obvious that Chris had to walk a fine line of he's ex-law enforcement. He's worked a lot with people in court systems, with the FBI and other local municipalities. I'm sure that he didn't want to just completely throw them under the bus, but he did mention a couple of times that there are a lot of people that agree with him doing this. And yes, thank you, Sue. Sleepless in South Africa. Everyone hit that like button. Pinto Sack, did you guys compare tattoos? No, I don't think he might. Well, he probably knows if he's watched the show, but when I'm in a full suit, you can't tell. I didn't know he had as many tattoos as he did until I watched his interview about Waco, actually. And I was like, oh, wow, he's got a lot of them. Dylan Moore, what's going on? Said ex-law or ex-law enforcement, it doesn't give you credibility in regards to knowledge of this case. I know more than all of them because I did more research. I think it's obvious that there are people that, I'll think back to Jeffrey Gentry. Jeffrey came in purposefully not knowing about the case so that he could come in and look with an unbiased look at the crime scene. So his was on purpose. And now he's, kind of continued to look at it. Chris, I think, was almost asked to do this like an assignment in a way. So he had to get brought up to speed quickly. But what people forget about Chris Whitcomb's book, maybe not even forget, but really what Chris Whitcomb was doing with that book, everybody, I've said this in the past, he went after the mainstream narrative's three main pillars. The mainstream narrative's three main pillars were the DNA, the phone pings, and the white car. I think that he completely dismantled the mainstream narrative. He didn't go into every nook and cranny of every minute detail. I think he was broadly brought up to speed, or if he did know a lot more about that, the point of the book and the point of him doing the interviews was to talk about what he put in the book. And I think when you get to that point and that level, you have to make a strategic decision as to, I don't want to put something out that's going to be like eating an elephant all in one bite or drinking from a fire hydrant. We have to put out small little bits and pieces. And ideally, as Chris said, somebody takes the torch and runs with it. But let's get the ball rolling. Let's start talking about the mainstream narrative and dismantling that. And thank you, Asira Kelly, Native Pride, gifted 5 birdie memberships to Hive Plus. Appreciate that. Genuinely Confused said, I agree, Birdie. He can't get sued either. Lacerna said, if we know what we know now, if what we know now was known by the defense, why not go to trial? Yes. $1 million question. It's certainly on the table that Brian Koberger was playing a role. I used to say that a lot more than I did because I feel like myself and anybody else that may have thought that, or we may have said it in communities like this where we're openly talking about that this doesn't make sense. We've all mentally accepted that this is not what they've told us. But when you put it out outside of this community, people weren't ready to hear that. I've gotten to the point, and one of the reasons why I did that series I just did is because I don't care anymore. It's the truth. Look at the documents. We have everything to back that theory up that it's not Brian Koberger. There's more than one person. And given Brian Koberger's history and the school that he was going to and the funding they received, it's not a stretch to think that maybe Brian Koberger is in on this. The other part too, and I don't just want to focus on this question of the day, but like I said, the last week, I didn't get to dive into the chat much. One of the other things too is that there has to be something that you accept mentally when you start thinking about this case. You have to decide on whatever theory you're going to start to investigate. Am I going to investigate this as a normal court procedure? Am I going to investigate this as this is how any case looks and this is what those cases follow as far as the order that they go in? Or am I going to divert and think, well, I haven't seen anything normal about this yet, so why would I expect normal procedures to happen? And why would I expect everything that you would expect to happen if it was a normal case to happen when nothing like that has? So I think you have to make that decision on which theory you're going to go down. And everybody's got their thoughts and opinions on that. And I just saw Pinto Sack asked a question that I've been asked a handful of times, and it was, did Chris tell you anything off the record? No, I actually have not spoken to Chris off stream outside of when him and I were backstage before we went live. I know that there's other people that they seem to be talking to Chris more. I have not personally, no. But a good question. I wish you did. Green Tea 920 gifted 10 Birdie memberships. Wow. Thank you all so much. That's incredible. And I appreciate that. Towson DoorDash said Chris Wickham's broken plea was a, quote, rabbit punch to the prosecution's case. Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Well, what does rabbit punch mean, actually, before I say I agree with that? A quick punch? It's a sharp chop with the edge of the hand to the back of the neck. Yeah, that's a good description. DJ Frankie Fitz said crime scene cleanup. First, dispose bodies. I think you might have left a comment on one of my videos that I saw. Or if you didn't, and thank you for the super chat. If you didn't, somebody brought this point up too, which maybe isn't discussed as much as it should be. And that is, if you're going to clean up the crime scene, why not get rid of the bodies, right? You would think if you're going to clean up a crime, most times you try to hide or dispose of the bodies. And they didn't. So what they cleaned up and where they cleaned up is rather telling. At the end of the day, if they're not even going to get rid of the bodies, well, they're cleaning up something else for a reason. And that's to, I believe, they cleaned up to hide where and what started this escalation. WSU Mom said, I would love to talk to Chris. Well, WSU Mom, I would love to talk to you. I know I've dropped the chat link a bunch of times, and you have not taken me up on it, but if you ever feel up to it, I would love to have you up here. So what happened to Catherine? To Catherine Ramsland? Well, let me show you this. Give me 1 second, Hive. You guys will either be surprised or not be surprised at this, because the mods team, we reach out to people trying to get them on as guests. And this is what we received about 10 days ago. Let me just pull this up. We'd reached out to Ramsland, and Ramsland maybe maybe not surprisingly for some people, but thank you. But I'm not addressing the Idaho case or Koberger. Dr. Ramsland. Isn't that something? So Dr. Ramsland won't talk about it. And neither will the police chief, Gary Jenkins. He's advised not to comment on it. So that's very strange. Why not talk about it? Yeah, that is a good banner idea. WSU Mom Kim said she would come up right now. Is this true? Okay. What do you guys think? You guys want to hear from WSU Mom? I would love to. Drop a 1 if that sounds like a good idea. Thank you, WSU Mom Kim. All righty. So, all right, we got a ton of 1s. WSU Mom, I'm going to wait till the 1s stop flooding in so that you don't lose the link in the midst of this, and I will drop it here shortly. So there you go. As a reminder, You will not be on screen unless you would like to be. And also, too, I have this picture up here as well. If anybody is interested in some of the merch that the mods designed, I think these are badass. Anti-mainstream media club. These are now up. The mods will be dropping that merch link. These are brand new, and these are actual samples that Luna was able to order and test. So the quality is super good, and they turned out amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, we have WSU Mom Kim backstage. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm great. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I hate the what Wazoo mom thing because I'm like one of 800,000 moms out there who all represent Wazoo. So YouTube kind of gave me the name. That's why I stick to it. And I feel like I could change it, right? People might be nicer or whatever, but who cares? I don't care. It is what it is. So anyway, I'm just Kim.
Well, Kim, it's very nice to meet you. And
You
I've
too.
seen your name in the chat a lot. I think that what you just said, as far as people being nicer to you, are you still getting some flack from that original phone call? And did you have any idea that was ever recorded?
No, I did not. Yeah, I knew Daniel has always been on the. Are you talking about with Daniel?
Well,
Or
I'm
with
talking about,
T-Rex?
I had also heard, or I'd also seen somebody video recording your screen name, WSU Kim,
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
speaker. That one. Did you have any idea that they were recording that?
You know what? And I don't really. I can't say for sure because I'm not sure of the event. But if they are, and I said it, I said it.
Okay.
So it's fair enough.
Well, this is obviously, we're doing this live. This is
Right.
rather impromptu. And so if you don't mind, Kim, I would maybe, for people that don't know of you, or if they're newer to this case, can you give a little bit of a background on how you became WSU Mom?
So I became WSU mom because my daughter and my son were both attending Washington State University at the time, and my daughter was one of the students who received a Snapchat at 10:30 a.m. So as it was Parents Weekend for Wazoo, my husband and I were at Wazoo with our kids and had no clue what happened in Idaho. We were on our way home about 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on that Sunday, and we got a Coug alert, which is like a vandal alert. They're the same thing. That's just what they call them. And it was like 5 o'clock or so. Well, clearly they were waiting until the parents left campus because, I would have taken my kids and packed them up and put them in my Denali, and I would have taken them home right there. And I think all of us parents would have with that kind of a crime, right? Because none of us knew anything. And my daughter didn't tell me anything because she just got a snap. And here's the thing, she loved college. She was a senior.
Oh, Kim, are you there? Hang on. Kim? Oh, no. We lost Kim. Kim, are you there? No. Kim, if you can hear me, okay, she just dropped off. I'm going to drop the link again. Slow the chat down so she can click that, or just give her a second. Okay, she's back.
Sorry, when my phone rings, I get knocked off. Sorry.
Okay. No
Yeah.
worries. No worries. So
Sorry.
let me 1 second.
I don't know where I was stopped at, but no, I don't want to come up right now because my hair's not done. I just had surgery. It's a little rough.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. But you were in the middle of talking about how I had asked you, how did you become WSU Mom? You said that you guys were all there. Your daughter got a Snapchat around 10:30, and you believe that the Coug alert was not sent out until after the parents left purposefully because they knew that if it would have been sent out while you all were there, you would have taken your kids.
Absolutely. And my daughter knew that too. That's why she didn't tell me. She's smart, right? She knows her mom. I know my kid. And so we did withdraw our son. We transferred him to another university um, because two people, Judy Ron, I reached out to Judy Ron and I reached out to Ken Maines, I think is his name. And both of them said the exact same words, get him the fuck out of there. That's exactly what they said. And I took their advice, got him out of there because, you know, it's like it was terrifying to have a kid there. Terrifying. But what was more terrifying was the lack of transparency. So I learned that my daughter, so it was Sunday night, so we get home, and then the next day is Monday, and I'm watching the noon news locally, and they said, and we live about 5 hours from campus, and they said that the police were there at noon, called at 11:59. I'm like, hmm, that doesn't click. That makes zero sense. So I called the Moscow police and I said, I've got a different timeline here for you. And they really weren't interested. So I called Wazoo. They were not really interested in that whole time thing, but they knew at that point, I think, that they had to at least justify, because some of the kids got 815 Snapchats. And the only reason my daughter was in that Snap group isn't because she was friends with them. It's because one of her best friends, actually, whose wedding she was just in, was her sorority sister and was dating a football player who went to U of I. That's who she married. So she knew the kids because she would go back and forth between campuses to her boyfriends, right?
Yep.
So that's why. So her sorority sisters all got it, that message. That's the only reason she was even in on the Snapchats. She was with us, I mean, the whole night. There was nothing. Well, there was one thing I saw that I look back on all the time, and I have told the police and stuff that was questioning. We were sitting at I think it's V Hall, and all the parents were. I had switched up with my husband, and he went with my son, and I went with my daughter because he wasn't 21. So we were sitting in V Hall, and this group of kids come in, not kids, but young adults that did not look like students. They looked like a pack of people who had ill intent. And I looked at my daughter and I said, "Who are they?" And she said, "Get up, let's go." Every one of these kids grabbed us and we all left.
Who was it?
I don't know. To this, I don't know. I called V Hall and I said, "Do you have the tape from that night?" And they didn't know if they still had it or not. And I called the police. I wound up actually calling the FBI. And then I have a cousin who is in social media and a special task force with that. So I reached out to my cousins and they instructed me what to do. And I'm buried. Like, people couldn't find me. When T-Rev doxed me, he actually doxed somebody that wasn't me. And she had no idea that he sent people out to my house. So my cousins kind of surrounded and shut people down. So I don't feel unsafe now, although for a time I did, because my daughter was chased through our neighborhood. We lived in a gated community, a lake community, and she was running through our neighborhood, which is typically very safe. We got a guard and everything. I don't know how they got in, but she was smart enough to remember what I taught her when running is to zigzag. If you feel like you're being followed, zigzag, jump fences, run, hide, duck, scream, knock on doors. She
Wow.
remembered that. And then she came in and she had a seizure, which is not major. She was fine. But the whole thing was that scared us. So then we left the area for a little while. We went back east with family and then sold our houses here and purchased new homes, new cars. I drive a car now that is like a machine. Like my husband can find me wherever I am, which makes me feel secure. And our kids' cars are the same way now too. So we've taken the protection, but we have the resources for that. A lot of people don't. And the first thing my cousins did was put eyes on Peyton when she was at school for her final semester. So they had eyes on her the whole time. So that's kind of how this all started with it all getting so. And I had reached out to T Rev because I thought Detective John was actually a legit detective who really I didn't know anything about. I didn't even know YouTube had. I thought it was DIY. Literally, the last time I went onto YouTube, it was so Peyton and I could fix the dryer because my husband was working out of town and I could not go without a dryer. So we fixed it. We thought we were badasses. We fixed the
Wow.
dryer. And I didn't know there was a true crime thing. You know who told me to call true crime or get on YouTube?
Who's
Was
that?
Green's assistant in his office.
So, okay. That is crazy. And you've been through a lot. And so is your daughter, all because what you did essentially is you said, we are not being told the truth. And your daughter had seen a Snapchat. Now the chat, this live chat has been flooding with the question. And I myself am wondering what was on the Snapchat.
Okay, so I can tell you what's on the Snapchats. I can tell you what's on them from my daughter because she told me what was on them. What she was told was that Bethany and Dylan, four kids were stabbed to death in their house in a live out, the party house, which is known as party house, is what she referred to it as. I've never been there, but I mean, I have been there now, but since then, but I hadn't before
Four
known
kids
anything
were
about it.
stabbed.
Four kids were stabbed and killed, and that I said, "Who did it?" And she said, "Well, we don't know." And I said, "How many people lived that?" She said, "Well, two people were still alive. They were locked downstairs in Bethany's closet." She didn't say Bethany's name. She said one of the girls' closets because she didn't know these girls. Her friend did.
So they were in Bethany's closet, not the spare room closet.
No. Well, maybe in translation or narrative or what the narrative they wanted to direct was different. I don't know, but that's what she told me, and that's what she believes. So, and I know that she believes that wholly because the day that Brian was arrested and when they released the PCA, is that what it's called, right?
Yep.
Probable cause affidavits. She came downstairs and her hair was mussed. It was Christmas break and her hair was a muss. And so she was just waking up, right? So it's kind of like, your kid when they're in that minute, right? That moment of like, not, she goes, "That's a lie. She's lying, Mom." And she was so certain. And then my son came running down. He goes, "There is no way, unless he was going 100 miles an hour, he could have ever made that timeline fit for that car." Talking about Koberger.
Has anybody that you've talked to, just because you had just finished with Koberger there, has your daughter ever seen this guy? Has anybody that your daughter knows ever heard of Brian Koberger?
Yes. So he was
Really?
a TA. He was a TA, which is a part of the PhD program. The reason they have TAs is because PhD students are smart. They are the smartest of the smart, and they've got egos twice as big as their intelligence levels. So they've got egos, right? In order to teach, you got to check your ego and got to get into a place where other students are. That's the purpose of a PhD program and TA. So he had a TA ship. I also called the school. He was also he was not kicked out. He was not fired. He was not anything. He was actually supposed to go to work for the Wazoo Police Department in the spring because in the fall, Wazoo didn't have its own police department because the police department got in trouble for sexual offenses against one of the sorority girls and a cover up or something. So, and that's pretty public knowledge. But he was not fired. I mean, he was a good student. He was bright. My son is so when Wazoo got all of the monies for like their new lab, they also got what's called a pre-law program. Typically, students were poli-sci majors and then they go to law school. Well, my son was he picked Wazoo because, well, his sister was there, but also because they had that pre-law program. So he went to classroom 13, and Brian, I think, taught in classroom 12. Nothing.
Really?
Any students that ever spoke of him. And spoken to students before, didn't think he was weird. In fact, he's a good looking guy. He's only creepy now because anybody accused of how can you not be creepy? Like,
Oh, right.
right? I mean, at what he loses as he walks in the building because they said you just did this to 4 students. Yep, you're a creep. That you go in there with that branded on you. So, and somebody once asked me if I'd invite him for dinner, and I said, yeah, I would. I mean, I haven't seen him. I don't know what part he played. He has to know something. I have to believe that because if it was just laying it on somebody, they would have laid it on Kopaka. He was gone. That would be easy.
Right. So can we, and if you're okay with this, Kim, what I'd like
Sure.
to do is kind of slow down a little bit with
Oh
some
yeah,
of the-
good
some
idea.
of the- yeah, I love hearing from
Keep
it.
me in my rails.
I didn't want to be rude. I want to ask some questions and kind of just, some things that I'm sure people have been wondering for a long time now. So you had answered what's on the Snapchat. So do you remember if it was a text chat or was it a photo of people stabbed?
I never heard. I didn't even ask that question actually.
Okay.
So
Okay, you just knew it was on Snapchat.
and it was on. I'll ask her that when I talk to her tonight.
Okay. Since then,
Yeah.
and so you had said your daughter had been followed or chased. What do you think it was about you kind of talking about this, saying that's not right? My daughter was there. You're going on some shows. That phone call of yours was recorded. Why do you think that put such, for lack of a better word, a target on you and your daughter?
I think because the information is correct. That was in the Snapchats.
Did they have any idea as far as, because I remember you had said there was going to be a shakedown. That was one of the big things that stuck when you had.
I still believe that. Yeah, I still believe that to be true.
And can you break that part down? So you had said, the kids had heard it's going to be a shakedown. Was this a shakedown from the police? Was this a shakedown from drug dealers? Was this a shakedown in what sense?
In my opinion, it was from Demetrius and Emma Bailey. I believe that wholly. And I believe that's why Caden Young is dead. Because he discovered he is a journalist, a junior, and he was a journalist major. And he was with Emma Bailey and Demetrius Robinson when he died. They were arrested in Washington State. They were released the day where they were supposed to go to trial. They're in Vegas now, free as birds.
So how did those two names pop into your head? Because there's a lot of people, myself included, that have definitely heard of, Emma Bailey and Demetrius when it comes to the drug scene, who Emma's father obviously is. And so the shakedown, did somebody steal from them? Does this go back to the rumors of somebody flushing a ton of drugs?
Mm-hmm. It does. I do think because it was a party house and because you could buy drugs there. And I'm not, and I want to say this right out the gate. I am not accusing those kids of any misdoing. I don't know what their part is, but they're also college kids, and the time and place for everything is college. Then you come out and you be a good person. You're good till you get to college. You got 4 years on your parents' dime. Have a good time. Don't break the law, hopefully. But
Right.
you do things, right? You experience life. So I hold no ill will towards or anything negative about those kids. They're no different than mine. It could have been my kid. It really
Understood.
could. It breaks my heart, actually. Still to this day, it breaks my heart. But when it came to Demetrius Robinson, he is a promoter or a DJ. I believe he was playing the music at V Hall.
Okay.
I can't be certain. So I'm not gonna, but that is my feeling, and I haven't been able to confirm that or not. And the dance floor was downstairs and we were upstairs. But these guys went straight down there to where the DJ was. So I know that he was. So at one point, somebody who Now, because it came off a T-Rev show, I don't know where I stand on this, but it kind of checks out. So Demetrius Robinson grew up about 25 minutes from where we live. And I did not know him beforehand, not at all. I know a lot of the kids who grew up around him. They play ball with my son. And Demetrius went to Wazoo, I believe, on a scholarship, as did his brother and his sister. He has 3 siblings. His mom moved to Pullman. I believe she works at Pullman now. I could be incorrect, so take this with a grain of salt. But that's how I found out about him. And then Emma Bailey kind of fell into it, kind of.
Wow.
And just asking questions and not asking questions. A lot of times I've learned if I just don't say anything, the kids will just keep going. They'll throw it up at you. The less you say, the more they talk. So
what do you think where we are today with now we have, and I don't just want to skip ahead, but really what you said has never surfaced outside of these type of channels that were, really keen to the fact that, similar to what your daughter said, that's just not possible. The timeline, there's no way, it doesn't make any sense. And while yes, people may have known Brian Koberger, there's no connection really to that house or to those victims. Now,
no, and he was a teacher, so you have to. So he was an adult too, right? So there's that barrier that I think he was intelligent by not crossing over that line. A TA could cross the line and lose their PhD monies. PhDs have it made, but you can't sleep with your students. So if he did find himself attracted to somebody at UI, I could see that before Wazoo. But why Parents Weekend? That's insane. It's stupid.
It's stupid. So,
And the one thing he isn't is stupid.
I agree with that. The whole narrative surrounding Brian, he wanted to see if he could get away with it, and he never expected to get caught. Yet there's very simple things that he made mistakes on, right? Or if you listen to the narrative, you would be like, yeah, he made every simple mistake he could to get caught, as far as they make it sound that way. The evidence doesn't necessarily reflect that. I want to talk to you about now when this is in the moment. And I don't want to be all over the place because I think
I know I can be that way. Daniel always keeps me in my rail, so like bringing you back.
Kim, I have an ADD squirrel brain, so
I do too. I see a therapist still yearly, and I'm 60. I actually see her every month, actually. Yeah, you gotta. It's a thing.
Yeah, well, the chat can follow along. There seems to be a lot of people that have the ADD squirrel brains in the chat too that can somehow follow us. But I think going back to the beginning for some questions, and I'll be looking into the chat too for some questions. But one other one that I have is now the Snapchat comes in at 10:30, I believe, and you had said there was other people that got Snapchats at 8:30, right? So what? The Snapchats weren't of necessarily inside of 1122. You were just saying there were Snapchats and it was this rumor of people had been stabbed and that there was rumors of a shakedown.
Correct.
The cleanup aspect of it, have you heard anything about that? Is it Dylan and Bethany that you've heard, or have you heard anything outside of that maybe most people don't talk about or they haven't heard of?
So there were some maintenance issues that were going to be taken care of over the Thanksgiving break, and the plumber had come in and left his work tools like drop cloths and whatever tools he needed in the house several days prior to the crime. So those were all there, which I found really interesting. Now I don't find it. I didn't, that would be normal. But also, I don't think a plumber's going to leave his plumbing wrench, right?
They're think
expensive.
Not on purpose, right?
I think they cost a lot of money, right? For the right wrench or the right tools or drop cloths or whatever. Why would you go in and invade the student's house like that? And that seems to me, very sketchy. But I have no proof other than the fact that, in my opinion, it's sketchy.
Now, do you know have you heard of any timelines of when Ethan and Xana got home? And do you happen to have any idea who an Erica would be that would text Ethan saying you're being cheated on?
Okay, Erica Anthony is who I think you're talking about. Is that who you're speaking
Well,
of?
it was kind of, I would say, really when it became mainstream was from Chris Wickham's book, Broken Plea, where he includes in the timeline 2 separate texts from somebody who's, quote unquote, Erica texting Ethan, you're being cheated on.
So, okay, so I wonder who, I guess my first question with Erica is, who was she dating at the time?
I'm not familiar with Erica Anthony in that sense. So I don't know if there's somebody in the Hive that does.
So I think that if we find out her boyfriend, we'll find more information.
I am curious if anybody would know that.
I'll make a phone call tonight when I get done here. I'll call a girl who used to come with my son and have lunch at my house every day in high school was Kaylee's sorority sister.
Why don't you think people like that are also on this rampage of guys? Where is
stitches?
They get what? Snitches get stitches.
Get stitches. And I never. So my kids grew up, and I'm just being honest here. They grew up in a bubble. Most of these kids in college or on Greek Row grew up in a bubble, right? Life's pretty easy. Parents usually are paying for school. They don't really know what the outside world holds for them. So they're more gullible. They're more, we have to sit our kids down before we send them to college and have the talks again. Stranger danger and what to avoid. And these circumstances are bigger and now, right? Be more they're just trustworthy. Nobody's ever hurt them before.
Right.
So I think we're coming from that brain set. But I think within that brain set, and I don't know if I'm answering the question properly, we have people like Barachola, who was picked by Sigma Chi because of his brain, and they had problems with grades. Your house has to perform, or you get shut down.
Right. That I do know that you will when you're rushing, right?
Right.
Every frat or sorority, they want, people that are going to bring the most benefit to their house, right? Whether that be, you're smart or your parents have a bunch of money, whatever it may be.
Whatever it is, right? What you look like, right? It's a thing, right?
Yep. Now, do you know why? So I briefly started to ask you about how, why isn't anybody talking? You said snitches get stitches. But what I find interesting is this dynamic or this aspect of, okay, that's back in 2022. Most people that would have known them would be graduated. They would be out of the area. Maybe they'd be moving on with their life. And there's an entire new cycle of, there's a new class.
100%. And all of these kids that were to graduate with with the 4 are getting married. My daughter wore 8 horrible bridesmaid dresses this year. Horrible. They're all getting married, including the Vandal football player and her sorority sister. All of them getting married. And that football player is actually, well, I guess everything's open now. Jack DeCourse was, I believe, went to Jack DeCourse because he did not stay by us. That was one of the things. A lot of the parents will stay in their kids' live outs or dorm rooms because on parents weekend because they jack the hotels up to like $1,500 a night. Even if you plan, they'll change it for you. Even if you are a year out, they'll change the price later. So a lot of parents do that. Well, we didn't. We stayed in a hotel, but not in Pullman.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and so that's kind of, oh, now I lost it. I'm sorry, squirrel.
No, you were talking about the parents would say in Pullman.
Most of the parents would stay in Pullman, or we'd stay in Moscow. I used to love staying in Moscow. I would run out there. Will needed suits one day because was accepted. He had an open bid to all the houses, and he chose his house, and he needed suits. So I said, well, I'll just drive him over. I'll just come over and drive him over. And so I was there, and I love staying in Moscow. I used to run past the food truck. The food truck is literally like a 3-minute walk to the King Road house. And you have to remember that house's real address is Queen Road. Why did they change it?
Well, that's been a question too about the address, and I believe Steve G had even been quoted saying, the Queen's on King. Everybody knows that house
Right.
as a party
Right.
house.
Everybody.
Kim, there are a couple questions came in. Did you mean to say football player or the football coach for
Player.
the
I'm
wedding?
sorry. Oh, I apologize. Did I say coach?
No,
My
you didn't
husband-
say coach, but you said player.
I
People were
apologize.
wondering
I meant player. Yeah.
who was that?
You
Or
know, I feel like he's been actually exonerated from any.
okay. I won't put you on the
influence.
spot for that then. I get it.
Just because he, my daughter was in their wedding, and I just feel like
I got you. I'm respecting it. I get it when
Yeah.
it comes to that because
I just want to respect them as adults. And if the police say otherwise, I will certainly go in there, stomp right in there, and tell them exactly everything. Right? But there's nothing that's alarming to me.
okay. Okay. I was just curious if it was somebody that maybe it's a common no name or who it might be, but I understand and I respect that. My next
he was
question.
a good player. I mean, he was definitely a good player. He definitely played.
Okay. Now, do you feel like at this point, outside of maybe releasing somebody's name, like what we just did there, and I get what I'm comfortable with that. Do you feel comfortable now talking about this out in the open?
I do, because I feel very safe. And that's the thing. I don't know if they'd be safe. They don't have the same walls built around them that I have been gifted with, that resource of having these walls around me that people couldn't get to me. Like, you couldn't look me up in the phone book or get me my number from 911. There's no way. My life is in a trust.
Okay. So you took steps, obviously, after this originally happened. Like you said, you were doxxed,
Right.
or somebody attempted to dox you. Okay. What I want to know, and what I'm going to ask you here is, has there been anything that you've heard about this case that now you feeling safe, you have these things in place that you can say now that maybe you haven't said before? Anything that would maybe be surprising to hear, or that has just been completely brushed over in the beginning?
Yeah, I do actually. White Alonso sat in my driveway over spring break when the kids went to. Ooh, they went away for a vacation for spring break. I don't know where, but they all left from SeaTac, so I took them and then they stayed with us. And that Alonso was sitting in my driveway, and I said to her,
To your daughter or to the person in the
to the
Elantra?
person whose car it was, I said, and I looked at it and I said, did you go to the police and tell them about your car? And she goes, no. I said, why not? She said, because it's the wrong year.
Wow. Which is exactly what happened to Koberger.
But she was my daughter's sweet mate. And everybody said that her sorority sister and her boyfriend stayed there that night. But I dropped my daughter off, and I have said this before, I believe. I dropped my daughter off at that night. My husband and I did, before we went to the hotel. And I walked upstairs with her, tucked her in, kissed her goodnight. Yep, I did. Sue me. And I never saw I didn't see him. Now, I would believe that his girlfriend would be staying in her sweet mate's room, even though her sweet mate's parents were there, because they went to high school together. They grew up together. So they were that kind of friends. But I never saw the football player.
And that is whose car she was driving when they parked in your driveway?
That was her car.
Oh, okay.
But he had access. He would have had access to it. That was concerning to me. So I did speak with Ann Taylor's investigator. He called me because I gave the police department and everybody our cloud. I gave them all the passwords. They didn't have to subpoena anything. I said, take it. You can even have the phones. I'll buy new phones. Take it. You can have anything you want. And so they had access to our clouds. Whether they used them or not, I don't know. I've never heard. I would do anything Steve asked me to do, or any of the parents asked me to do. Have I said things before because somebody might have asked me to say something? I have, to get a lead for people. Yeah, I have.
Interesting. So you've talked with the gynecologist. Have you talked with
No,
any of the?
never.
Oh, you haven't. You said if Steve asked you to say something.
Well, so okay, so Olivia, Chronicles of Olivia,
Okay.
she actually reached out to me, and turns out that she actually went to high school with my niece. So, which is weird. I mean, everybody's connected some way. But so, and she's a great girl. Olivia's a great girl. And she asked me, we had conversations. She'd call me if there was a question. Sometimes it might have been from Steve, might not have been from Steve, somebody else. I won't talk to the families. First of all, I won't talk to them.
Okay.
If they called me, I'd answer their call for sure. But I don't think it's my place to invade them with information. Right.
I see.
I wanted to respect their grief. I stopped reporting to Moscow. I always reported to Ann Taylor's office, and I reported to the FBI in Quantico.
Wow. Okay. That makes sense that you're not going to go out of your way to necessarily reach out to them, but you would answer the phone. DJ.
I would definitely. It's not going out of the way. It's just I just don't want to impose anything on them.
Right. And also, you don't want to necessarily create
Yeah,
ill
chaos
will towards you or chaos. Yeah.
for them. They're hurting enough.
I understand it. I think most people would understand why that would be something that you wouldn't do. And DJ Frankie Fitz, Kim, sent in a super chat with a question for you. He said, "Greetings from Ireland. Question:
I can't wait to get there.
I've never been either. I would love to go.
I would love to go. That's where I hail from.
Yes. And so the question that DJ Frankie Fitz asked is, do you think that the real killers have been interviewed by law enforcement as part of this investigation? Yes or no?
Yes.
You do. Okay. You kind of said that with a little bit of a tone.
I said it with a tone because I didn't want to say it, but I have to be honest. If you ask me that question and everything's been released and it's been 4 years and I still don't feel my grandson chose not to go to Wazoo so Mimi could sleep.
So I'm going to make a calculated guess here that if I was to ask you, who do you think it was, you're probably not going to say?
No, here's what I will say to you. An ISP officer, we also had an ISP officer who contacted us and called us he called several times. He was a nice guy, and he said, he called me when I knew they were going to arrest Brian, not because they told me, but just because of the tone and nature of the phone call. When he called, it was like this one last thing. He goes, "Can I ask you one last time to have your kids provide a written affidavit, or will you?" And I said, "Fuck no. You tell me they're safe first, maybe. Fuck no."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I said, which is, I apologize for my
You're
mouth,
fine. You can say whatever
but
you want.
I know, but that's what I said to him because I was just so taken back. I was like, "Are you kidding?" He goes, "I don't blame you." I said, "Okay."
Wow.
Because I do want to thank you, though. The evidence, the information you gave us helped us lead to a parallel crime. I didn't know what a parallel crime was. So then I, of course, called my cousin. It means two crimes simultaneously. They don't have to be purposely connected, but purposely they become connected. Believe it's two crimes. I believe Ethan's was different than Kaylee's. I believe hate and jealousy were evident in both Kaylee and Ethan's wounds. Their wounds were far worse. Xana wouldn't have been killed, I don't believe, if she had not fought to protect Ethan.
Wow. So, okay, that's a lot. So you're saying that parallel crimes, you didn't know what it meant. After learning what it meant, it was essentially saying that two separate crimes became one.
Correct.
As far as the investigation goes. So parallel crimes led to the same investigation. Now,
that's exactly how I should have phrased it. You're right. Exactly. It became one investigation. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Now, is it two separate crimes at two separate areas? Because one of the things that, what you had just said, a lot of people believe that there's a massive chance that the timeline is two separate events. However, it is odd as far as like Ethan goes for the autopsy. People are saying, and the experts have said, Ethan never left the bed. So I've always wondered if the reason why Ethan never got out of bed is that there was a medical emergency. Essentially, Ethan and Xana did split up. I think Ethan had walked from the Sigma Chi house to 1122 and got into bed because he wasn't feeling good. Maybe that's why Xana's calling him. Maybe he left with Pistol Pete, and that's why Xana then texts Pistol Pete afterwards saying, "You good?" And Xana's not with Ethan. Is that because Ethan was having some sort of reaction or had ingested something? And that's where maybe some of the rumors came from about bad drugs or an overdose. And the reason why Ethan never left the bed, or the reason why Ethan never was able to get out and protect Xana, was because he was already inebriated. He was incapacitated at some point, and then he was still stabbed.
So I think a little bit of all of that is true. I think that what I'm at, maybe this will click it together in some way, but I believe that they owed money. Somebody owed money for drugs. I believe it wasn't the first time. I believe it was the second or third time that they had to go collecting. I believe that a girl overdosed and there was fentanyl involved, and Darius or Emma had sold that to the girl who overdosed. And I don't know who her name is, but it was earlier in the evening. And I know that because they brought out the Wazoo dog. There's only one drug dog in that entire area. And it's owned by, not Wazoo, but Pullman. So they brought the dog out. The dog was busy. So the dog there was busy then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so he's already got one OD on him. And I don't know if maybe he's, I'm guessing he's probably an informant.
Who is that, Ethan?
No, not Ethan. Robinson and Emma.
Demetrius.
I think they rolled. And I think they were snitches. I think they snitched. That's how they got out of it. But I think he was afraid that he was going to get really get in trouble because he dealt two separate, we have this crime and then a girl is already overdosed. And I believe they gave something to Rufy. I believe the fraternity brothers were delivered something by Bethany to Rufy Ethan.
Jeez. So, okay. Wow. That's a lot to unpack.
That's a lot. And it's a lot of rumor too, right? It's a lot of kids talk. So please don't take it as science. I've called the authorities. I've called every single person that I should call about that.
I'm back.
Now they've opened up the documents. So if it's not there, then, well, they're bad because I reported it. So I'm not telling you anything I haven't reported.
Yeah. And I don't know what just happened, but it kicked me out of the live and I had to come back quick. So I missed some of that, but it's a lot to unpack. And I was just going to say that obviously, I've ran the banner. This is all alleged. Kim, can you hear me? Kim, can you hear me? Kim? Wow. What a time for that to go out. And she cannot hear me. Hello? Son of a. What the heck is going on here? What the heck is going on here? Okay, so hey Kim, are you there? All right. I had to kick Kim from the studio. That was again odd timing. Now I'm going to drop the link again. Kim, I hope that you're still there because that was nuts. So fingers crossed, Hive. Let's give it a couple of seconds here. Come on. Drop it again. Kim, no, not Kim. Ass man, what are you doing? No, you guys stop clicking the link. Keep the link open for Kim for a second. Okay. Damn. Well, what the heck? Guys, how many times does that happen? I mean, seriously, like, oh, she's back. Sorry, ass man. Sorry, everybody else backstage. I'm bringing Kim back up. Kim, are you there?
I'm here. Sorry. I don't know. It just went out.
Yeah, it went out for me too. It kicked me off as well. I don't know if you saw that or if you can see the
I
screen.
don't, I can see the screen. Yeah.
So both of us got booted. Wow.
Oh.
Glad you're back. We were talking about probably one of the heaviest things that we've had yet to, or that we've gotten to yet. And you had brought up Demetrius as far as being somebody that may have flipped. And I don't think that that's not a terrible thought at all, because you do wonder certain charges when they get dropped from people's records, they cooperate. I think most people would understand that. I wonder if a part of the cover up was Demetrius. And again, this is all alleged, but I'm saying, let's say, without saying names, let's say that there is somebody that rolled and is now an informant and is doing controlled buys, but when they're not doing controlled buys, are still trying to deal and make money. And when they're a CI and they're doing the controlled buys, right? The people maybe never actually use the drugs, but if you're doing it on the side, how bad does that look from a police department that, hey, you had your CI still dealing drugs, and those drugs that your CI that you were supposed to be watching, only doing controlled buys, just sold lace shit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, but I think that Demetrius is smart enough, because it's unfortunate the guy didn't use his brain to actually build a skill set or whatever, because he is bright, but he uses these girls. So that dude rag that Emma Bailey had on her head, that's a sign that you can go to her. So when you see those at school, and I got that from the kids.
So you're saying that okay,
It's like,
go ahead. Sorry.
It's like a stable.
That would sound crazy, but if you've ever been to, like, if you've ever gone to an all-inclusive resort or somewhere on the beach and you see people like walking around trying to sell you stuff on the beach, I feel like it's rather common knowledge to know that that's just a front. Most people, and not all of them, but there are going to be some people that are just, hey, buy these beads. And really they're there to see if you want to buy drugs while you're on vacation. So you're saying maybe it was a known thing in that area. If you wore like the silk bandana cover thing, that would be like, hey, if you wear that to a party, I got drugs.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I don't believe Mike McMichaels is the Uber or the DoorDasher. In fact, DoorDash doesn't even have a my understanding from DoorDash, because I called them before the gag and to report what I had learned about DoorDashers supposedly selling other things. So I asked my son, I said, when you DoorDash, can you DoorDash weed? And he goes, if the DoorDash is obliging. And I said, oh. And I said, is it actual DoorDash or? And so it led me to an Instagram account of Emma's, where she copied the DoorDash meth. Too bad she doesn't trust in herself either, because she's a smart one. She really is. I don't mean that I wholeheartedly. She's brilliant. She created her own DoorDash type business and not only delivered food, but she also delivered drugs. And so, but she would pay for the food. She'd go to the through the line, order it, pay for it, and then go where she was
Wow.
delivered.
Okay, so how did you like I gotta ask, like, how do you know about that? So you're saying that essentially
I called Jack in the Box that Monday. Or no, not that Monday. The day that I saw the bag on the banister. I saw a picture of the bag. No, not on the banister, on the kitchen counter. I saw a picture of the bag on a kitchen counter and it had an X on it, meaning Xana. Or I don't know if I saw the other letters, but I've never gotten a DoorDash that doesn't have everything written on the receipt, correct?
right.
And
Well,
I have to pay for it before it comes to me.
yeah, there's been a lot of people that have talked about the DoorDash receipt is handwritten and it's not printed, right?
Mhm.
And so there are oddities around that. I agree with you on that. Now that was back in 2022, but you can go look up on X. Jack in the Box has, I believe they have a post on their official page. And there's just people that have had Jack in the Box DoorDash that they'll tag Jack in the Box on, where you can go and see what the tags on DoorDash would look like coming from that restaurant. And none of them really looked like the one that we see.
I don't know. I can't say that I've ever ordered Jack in the Box.
Well, yeah, I
Like-
live around Jack in the Boxes. So,
Yeah, I don't live near one either. My dad got food poisoning once, so we never let us eat there. So whatever. But-
who do you believe the DoorDash driver was? So, because
Emma.
So you believe that the DoorDash driver was Emma Bailey, and now we do see somebody that looks like what could be Molly McMichael, right? Do you believe that is that video manipulation? Is that Molly getting told to go there and to?
You're right.
Right?
You know, I have to. I can't tell. Like all of these manipulated audios, even if you have to, like people are down. You know, to me, it's like if it's not clear, then it's not evidence, right? So I kind of avoid all of that. But I thought Molly McMichael's daughter is the one who wrecked that red Mazda RX-7, I think it was, that night, and her husband or boyfriend is the one who had all the cuts on him. That said he
Malich?
had- what was his name?
So you're saying that? Are you talking about Malich, the guy who said he was in an accident, but he had cuts on him, or was somebody else?
No, it was so the daughter. Apparently, the daughter and her boyfriend got in a fight. I think it's I could be wrong. I could have this wrong. Lana would probably know better, or Bubbly. But
It's Bubbly.
there was a red. Oh, is she in here? I hope so.
She is sometimes. So I see her name.
Yeah,
The
I
chat
talked to
moved
her.
quick. So hopefully, if she is in here, if somebody knows. So are you referring to the dark-haired girl then? That Molly
Well,
saw?
No, I don't know what color hair her daughter. Her daughter wrecked. Or
Well, let's
Do you
back up. Let's
remember-
back up. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. So I had asked you, who do you think the DoorDash driver was? You said Emma, and I said, okay, then why would Molly be there? And that's kind of where,
by them.
right. So now you're referring to who right now?
To whoever. So do you remember? What the heck is his name? I can't remember. it.
James Leonard, Janelle Braun.
James Leonard. Did he work? Did his wife or girlfriend work at Mad Greek with Xana and Maddie?
I actually don't know off the top of my head. But
Yeah,
the
he had.
chat will.
The chat probably knows.
Is
So
it Carmen,
whoever.
Hillary?
I don't.
Curtis, Curtis's wife.
Yes.
Mackenzie's her name.
Is that her name? And she is the one who worked with Maddie and Xana at Mad Greek. Is that correct?
I'm keeping an eye on the chat because I want to make sure that we're.
I do too, because I can't remember. I mean, I have my notes, but because we've moved, they're packed away. So
Amber.
I
There's a bunch of in the chat. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know off the top of my head, so I don't want to confuse people. But so it was somebody who worked at the Mad Greek with Xana and Maddie.
Yes, and her that not that was a DoorDash delivery, but that girl's daughter. I thought that was Molly McNichols that worked at the Mad Greek with them, but I could be incorrect. And she was the boyfriend of um, whatever his name is, and her daughter had wrecked her car that night as well. Her red Mazda RX-7.
And then, so you're referring to, thank you, genuinely confused, said the daughter crashed a car that night and James Curtis Leonard went and was arrested that night. And Amber is married
Right.
to James Leonard.
Okay, so I don't, so that's not Molly, but maybe Molly McNichols, she just showed up from nowhere, so I don't.
Okay, that's okay. And I'm not trying to
I know,
confuse you
as a DoorDash driver, but I do know it was them. So what I was told before the gag was put on, because of course I called Jack in the Box when I saw the bag. Of course I did. And I got a kid, just a sweet kid who just talked. And he said, and I did tell the police and I did tell the defense and the prosecutor about it. And he said it was some girl with long black hair. And this is exactly what he said. And but she does it differently than DoorDash. Didn't know what that meant.
Right. I feel like I've heard that too in the past. And that could have just been from hearing your conversations.
Right.
There was also rumors, though, too, that it was a male at first. Do you think that was just misreporting, or do you think?
I think it was purposeful. I think they put out a picture of a man leaning up against where DoorDash, you know how they have the racks where DoorDash picks up the food?
Yep.
Typically leaning next to or by that area. And that picture was put up purposely to distract us, to say, oh, look over here.
Interesting. So you're saying that they put a different DoorDash driver up there.
And why would the kid lie to me? He had no reason to lie to me.
I get it.
Right?
So you believe that it was Emma Bailey that was the DoorDash driver?
Or her company, her business, yeah.
Do you believe so?
Maybe it was Erica.
What if it was this? And Kim, I don't want to just impose my own theories on you, but I'm just thinking, how could Emma Bailey make sense as a DoorDash driver? Did Emma Bailey go, and if the food wasn't ready or something, did she leave the order but had maybe already claimed the order, and then that order timed out and was reassigned to Molly later, but Emma had ended up delivering whatever she was going to deliver?
Well, that would be only if they had ordered through DoorDash, but they didn't.
So,
according to the kid who was working that night, and he happened to be working the following that month, whatever day it came out. It wasn't Monday. It was like several weeks late. It was a while later when I called, but prior to the gag.
So I want to, and I get that we can go and keep talking about the DoorDash. I guess, Kim, I just want to know, like, what do you know that we don't know? Like, I just want to ask you, like, tell us what you know that we don't. And is there anything now that maybe didn't make sense in the beginning that you didn't know how to make sense of it, but now that we have more information, we have documents, or we have interviews, something that we've seen and looked at a million times could be different if we hear it from you who might know.
Well, I don't know if it's, but if I look at it as a juror and I'm sitting here with Jack Showalter, and I have never believed he was guilty until I saw his interview. I want to know why his mother was in that room with a 21-year-old kid, because he was 21 because he was in the corner club. So we know he's 21 at least, or else corner club serving minors, right? So why? I get an 18-year-old and under, but you lose your right to your parents sitting next to you holding your hand, don't you?
Yeah.
I'd drive my kid to the police department and I'd say, call me when you're done, or better yet, Uber home.
Right, because the cops can say, hey, he's over 18. You don't, we don't need you in here. So
it's so inappropriate. I don't even stay in the room with my kids at 19 when they're going to the doctors.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying that didn't even think about that, actually. And I'd be curious, why would they allow that then?
Yes, why did they allow it? Because Showalters are not just a family.
Can you explain this to me? So I will kind of take a little bit of my own medicine here, because one of the questions I've always asked him is, I said, I understand powerful people, powerful families, influence, money, wealth, and having people in powerful positions. But I always have felt like there's a line that gets drawn in the sand when, okay, I could see you getting away with, if you did a hit and run or a DUI and you hit somebody in a crosswalk, but a quadruple homicide and a stabbing, I feel like the level of power when you have every agency involved, that get the damn president putting something out on True Social about it's world news, that kind of goes out the window. So help me understand what you just said then about the Showalter family. They're not just anybody. Can you give some insight into that?
Yeah, they are. They're they both. I'm not sure if both parents, but the parents are both of Showalter's parents are doctors in the medical field. His mother does really great work in Africa. She really does. So I have nothing to say negative about that. But privilege is one thing. Privilege is a zip code. Entitlement is this. Is getting to sit in the interview with your son because you think you're an attorney. Get your son an attorney, because it happens. It just so happens his uncle is, I want to say he's the attorney general or the prosecuting attorney. And I know that because Jack Showalter, according to this guy's daughter, said he was at my house in Pullman, or my apartment in Pullman.
Okay. So what I'm picking up what you're putting down. You think Showalter is he's suspicious.
I think he was smoking a cigarette and he was there. He was lookout. I don't think they might have made him do something. I think they made him do something so he can snitch.
And
his parents had cut him off because he had failed out of school. So why he has a degree, I have no clue. But he said in his interview he was on probation. He wasn't. As far as I was under the impression, he had failed out for the last time. He was done. He was out. He was a sophomore, right? And so he also was tossed from his fraternity. To get tossed out of Greek is like wearing a scarlet letter. It's ridiculous and stupid and dumb, but it's also young adults thinking things matter. But he got dropped. I don't know if Kaylee dropped or she was dropped, or Xana got dropped or she was dropped. The three of them were dropped.
So I don't want to just brush over the fact that you just
I know,
said
we just went the other way. I know,
No, that's totally fine. My mind's also going a million miles an hour. So you had just said you believe that Showalter was outside smoking a cigarette, and that when you say they made him do something so he couldn't snitch, right? You said he was a lookout. Who do you believe they is?
I believe they are the bread baker and the special needs son. I do not remember his name, and I believe he's on the spectrum. So please I'm not insulting anybody. I'm just saying, redheaded man. I believe he's on a large guy. There's pictures of Bubbly has his name. I know she does. And he was there. I believe he was there. And whoever the plumber was there. I believe Demetrius was there and Emma was there. Or actually, okay, so I don't believe Demetrius is there. I think he has a paycheck and a pay stub from V Hall saying he was DJing that night.
Wow. So plumber, a redheaded large fella, bread maker.
The bread maker. And the Mad Greek, I'm not so sure they're not involved. I'm not so sure they're not involved. What do I care?
I'm not stopping you from saying anything here. So if you want to,
I believe that the bread baker, the Mad Greek, yes, I believe that. I believe the police know everything that happened. I mean, how did the Santa Claus, they call him, what's his name? How did he pick up Brady during
Bill Thompson?
Bill Thompson. He got a Brady during all of this. For what? What did he do? In the middle of this case, he pulls a Brady. That's sus to me right out the gate.
I had heard from somebody that's a local that the Brady violation. Are you talking about in the police department? Because we had heard from somebody that.
No, Bill Thompson got one.
Okay, so it's not the police officer that didn't respond to a suicide call because he was hanging out with his girlfriend.
Yeah, he has one too. Yeah, that guy. Yes, he has one, but which is bad choice. But Thompson picked one up.
Okay.
I didn't know an attorney could.
So
If you
okay.
Google it, it'll pop up.
So I'm gonna Google that, but man, Kim, I know
I know. I can tell you a million. I could talk probably for 20 hours.
And so people are saying that they think he had two. Just so you guys could see this. So if you want to buy the Brady list, it's $99.
Oh,
prosecutor. Well, hang on. Prosecutor misconduct. Yeah, this is all from the official site. It looks like it. This could just be something completely different. There's got to be.
But just put Bill Thompson, Idaho, Brady.
Yeah, Bill Thompson, Idaho, Brady. I mean, that's what I had.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, or maybe you could go to Spokane News.
This is East Idaho News. I'm not seeing
That would
anything
be
that's
right.
popping up, but I'm not seeing anything that's popping up.
So I'll find it and I'll try and send it to you. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah,
Okay.
Hun? Okay, have a good night. Love you. Bye. Sorry, my son's sleeping. I don't know how to mute it and not lose you.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're good. Okay. So, I mean, Kim, I know that this, and I've said this two or three times now, I'm okay with this being all over because this case is all over. And
Right.
to try to think about this in one, fluent matter, especially given how you came onto the scene and how early you were on the scene with how much is developed. I do apologize for asking you random questions, but again, I just go back to if you could think back, what is something that stood out to you that you never have, said or connected the dots to, and you've always wondered about?
So what I feel like there was some kind of a territory war, if that makes sense. And
With
the reason I
college
think
kids or
no, trafficking. I do believe there was trafficking involved. I truly believe that the intention was not for this massacre, but just to take Maddie and traffic her as a lesson because it was like the third time. That's what I believe between Maddie and Kaylee. But whoever harmed Kaylee hated Kaylee, or else Kaylee was a beast and fought so hard. That's why her injuries. But if he pulled her back from her hair, and then the end of the pipe or whatever part of the pipe, and she wasn't recognizable.
so you believe that it was a pipe from is that what
Like a wrench, a plumber's wrench. Yeah, I do. Absolutely do.
And do you ever wonder, now that you just said that, is that why they won't tell us what the second weapon is? Because if they say a wrench, people would connect the dot. Oh my God, you could find the records of a plumber being there.
Yes, I believe so. Absolutely. And I'll say this, that they did mention a wrench being found in Brian's car, which would be normal if you're driving across the country in November or December, right?
Yeah, and I think they said they found a shovel too.
A shovel and right? All the things to dig you out of the snow.
Yeah, I see that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to look distracted, but my incredible mods team did just send me that Brady list article.
Oh,
so
good, great.
Curious about that. I can pull that up quickly. It's just loading. Okay.
So you went away, so I'm just talking to you now, so I'm not touching anything. so I don't drop.
No, you're good. Okay, so hang on. Okay. Here we go. So it says, Bill Thompson, Latah County prosecutor, misconduct and controversies. Latah County prosecuting attorney William W. Thompson has faced multiple public complaints and allegations of misconduct over the years. On November 4th, 2024, Thompson was listed on the Brady list for suborning perjury. The complaint alleged that during a court hearing, the prosecutor made false claims about potential new meth charges based on an alleged item found in the defendant's vehicle, which was untrue. The defendant also claimed that 2 officers illegally searched their vehicle without a warrant, and that the prosecutor made slanderous remarks about drug use unrelated to the case, which involved a theft charge. The complainant said these actions reflected bias, discrimination, and a disregard for due process. There's a pattern of leniency in capital cases. Republican candidate in 2025, Colton Bennett, criticized Thompson for a plea deal in the Brian Koberger case, where prosecutors dropped the death penalty in exchange for a guilty plea. Bennett argued this was a pattern of leniency for violent killers, noting that over 20 murder cases since 1992, Thompson almost never pursued the death penalty, often offering plea deals or backing down when it was sought. TMZ reported that Thompson's office had a similar plea deal nearly 29 years earlier in 96 when a man admitted to killing 2 people in Moscow. The deal removed the death penalty from the case, and the victims' families were furious, calling it a betrayal of justice. The Brady list and Giglio list track public complaints, misconduct, and other issues against prosecutors. Thompson's name appears there for misconduct, bias, and other allegations. The Idaho State Bar and Post can investigate such complaints, and violations of the rules of professional conduct can lead to sanctions, suspension, or disbarment.
And there is Brian's appeal.
Wow. I mean, Kim, it's all so crazy. What do you think's going to end up playing out? Do you think that anybody that you have mentioned or alluded to will ever go down for this?
Not this time.
Whoa.
The next time. Oh, somebody who does that. First of all, it wasn't from jump. The kid said there were 5 or 6. I can't remember, so just forgive me for that. But it's 5 or 6. 3 out, 2 in. The 3 out were watching, and maybe the driver would be the 6th. That's probably what I'm remembering. But that's what the kids know. That's what I believe. So clearly, even if Brian was involved, where are the other guys? Where do people know? And are they going to act again? Yes. If you look at, and I don't believe Hunter is guilty. I'm not saying this. But he is destroyed. His life is never going to be the same. If the look of Hunter from when he was standing out there with Kaylee and the band, to his last interview with Emily, to me, devastating. As a parent, as a human being, devastated for this young man who had all the hope in the world, right? But he knows something, and that knowledge is killing him.
Why do you think that? So I understand snitches get stitches. Okay. I get it. I get it. But I would believe that there would have to be some measure of protection that these kids could get.
Yes. So most of the parents are totally satisfied. They look the other way. I'll be honest about that. A majority of parents look the other way. They didn't want to know about it, don't want to hear about it. This isn't our life, whatever. But that's not me. And that's not a lot of people and parents. And so we're all fighting. I lost the question again. Fill me in.
Oh, I said you must think that if you'd said it's knowledge that's essentially eating away at people like Hunter.
Right.
I said you got to think that there'd be some level of protection that these people could get for telling the truth then.
Oh, right. Like yes, but you know how that looks, right? Because if they snitch, the people who are offering that to them might be involved. They, you know, they don't necessarily know they're snitching on. They've got, and when Maddie said, "I'm sick of it, I'm done," that triggered something. And I think she really was done with whatever she was speaking of on. She was done, and that triggered chaos.
I mean, geez. Kim, is there anybody that your daughter knows that would be willing to pop on the stream at any point and anonymously spill the beans?
No, trust me, oh my gosh, she was just home. She came home yesterday or last weekend, and I'm like, you know, I feel like I have to die before I get to find out who did it. And she said, Mom. And I said, just tell me, I promise I won't tell anybody. That's a lie. She knows that. And she said, I don't know who did it, Mom. She said, but nobody's ever going to speak. And
Yeah.
if she knew who did it, she would say, I would make her say.
I believe you on that, right? Like the way that you talk about your daughter and the way that you talk about the situation. I do believe you that, you know, and I also, even if that wasn't true, right? I'm not saying that
Right.
you're lying. I'm saying, but
Sure.
I could see why somebody would say, yeah, I mean, there's no way I'm not going to put somebody at risk. I get that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I left my kid in jail for 3 days because I got in a fight with his sister at a party somewhere and made my daughter sit in the lobby. You're going to sit. I did not raise prisoners. I put 7 people on this planet. You best show up.
I feel you on that. And so I'm just going to do some rapid fire questions here. Okay.
And I'll be trying to stay in my lane.
No. And Kim, I just want to say too, like, I appreciate you coming up here, being willing
Oh,
to do
no
this.
worries. Not a big deal.
Yes. Thank you so much. And
Oh,
okay. First rapid fire question. Do you know what the exculpatory evidence is that Bethany may have?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know of any do you know of any romantic relationships within that house? And if you listen to any of the Chris Whitcomb interviews, he had also somewhat alluded to there could have been some sort of hooking up going on with people in that house when it came to, was it Bethany and Ethan? And he had said, not that combo.
Not that combo. So I think there's something to that trifecta. That. But do I have anything specific? No, but people do not do what they did to Ethan if they are not jealous and do not hate them. So whomever that was, either loved Ethan or hated him.
Okay. That makes sense.
Does that make sense? Because the injuries that Ethan, I do believe, what I believe is, you know, he was a fresher. I had a fresher too. No big deal. They just need 5 years. So he had, you know, he was working his way back, and he really wasn't a fan of, my understanding is, and I had only seen Ethan a couple of times. My kid played against him basketball, and he's a nice kid. Like, he's a nice kid. He's not an aggressive kid. In the heat of the moment, actually, this might be matter. Hunter and Ethan were on the same team, and my son and his cousin were on the same team. Well, Hunter and my nephew didn't get on very well, and they played the same position, and so they kind of got into it. And so Will's pulling back John, and Ethan's pulling back Hunter, and both Will and Ethan were laughing, and it was like, oh, you know. So to watch him play, it wasn't like the end of the world. It was like my kid. It was like, this isn't like this. So that may give an insight to anything they say about him being aggressive to anybody is not. I couldn't see it in the heat of the moment. That's
Okay.
what that's I'm saying. That's all I mean by that. But he's oh, I do think that somebody loves Xana, and she tutored him the year prior, maybe. And Ethan came on, and maybe, and I think there was he was in a jealous rage.
Okay.
And I think his hair matches the hair in his hand. And that's my opinion. In my opinion, everybody, nothing to base that on, just from being a mom.
Okay.
Seeing a kid play 2 ball games.
Okay. Next couple of questions. There are people asking, do you know what Maddie told Adam?
I wish I did. I don't.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Jack, D, and Dylan in general? Those 2 individuals.
I don't, they're kids. I think that as far as their guilt or culpability, I think Jack probably had a feeling something was going to go down. I don't think he thought this. I don't think he was involved in it in any way. I think he would have stopped it if he'd known. I think that his phone was taken by Adam from him, and there's like, she's just a bee, leave her alone. I believe that's the truth. That they were saying, you're just heartbroken or whatever. Meanwhile, knowing something different, but he wasn't sleeping. There's no question of that. He is the first person to offer up his DNA, everything, his phone, whatever they wanted. Do I believe he has any guilt? No. Maybe some knowledge, but I believe he would tell Steve everything he could.
Okay.
And he's heartbroken. In my opinion, that's what I think.
So is there, moving on to another question, and like I said, I just kind of want to rapid fire.
Okay.
As far as Dylan and Bethany and the 8-hour delay, do you believe that they were, I know you'd said they maybe were locked in the closet, but do you believe that they were forced to stay there? They were told to not call for a certain time?
Well, they locked themselves in the closet. I'm sorry if that wasn't. They weren't locked in a closet. They locked themselves in the closet.
Okay, and you believe that was the closet in
Bethany's room, but nobody's ever. It said down in the downstairs roommate. So,
yeah.
But I guess there's 2 rooms down there, right? So who knows?
Well, there is, and where my head's going, if you listen to Chris Wickham, is he said that spare bedroom is going to become important, and there's some sketchy stuff in there, and that is where the blood on the jacket was found. That's where people.
I think it was on the club, and Dylan was a golfer too.
Interesting.
I think the glove was part of it. Yeah.
Do you think that Dylan and Beth, so the cleanup? Do you believe that the girls were forced to help clean up, or do you think that other people cleaned up?
Well, I question why. So this is what I question, knowing my kids. She went outside. It was cold. It was 17 degrees that morning. She goes outside and she's got wet hair with French braids, weird hairdo in college. Now these days anyway, and no shoes. I don't know a girl on Greek Road that doesn't own at least 4 pairs of Uggs. Were her ones by the door destroyed with blood? Who knows? Maybe. Outside, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So Bethany seemed to be more composed, but I think the cell phone records say that Dylan was on the phone with her mom from 10 on.
There was a lot of phone activity, as we know. And so I guess with the surviving roommates in your head, do you think that they actually had anything to do with the killings?
I other than knowledge, I don't know. I would never. Nobody. I don't have proof that they would, or
Okay.
you know what I mean. But do I think they know what happened? Absolutely. They're not idiots. These houses aren't that big. They're
Right.
actually really small.
Well, and I don't just want to ask you, all the same questions that really it'd be.
Whatever you want to ask.
But it'd be there's questions that I feel like everybody's wondering, and it's not like you're gonna have some crystal ball and know everything about it either. I'm just kind of throwing some of them out there. And Lauren Lovely had asked, and thank you, Lauren Lovely, for the super chat. Said, "I'm sorry if WSU Mom answered this. Here is some support nonetheless. Thank you." But what was the 17-minute conversation about where Kaylee and Jack spoke on the phone? So Jack actually called Kaylee.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think they want us to believe it's about Murphy, but it's too coincidental because she was typing like on fire typing, texting, right?
She
That
was
like on fire.
back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it could be just two kids breaking up.
Okay.
I don't know. That's why I can't answer that with any
Uh,
information.
DJ Frankie Fitz, again from Ireland, said the hair found with Ethan and on Maddie's bed. So as we know, there's a clump of hair found in Ethan's hand. They didn't test the quote unquote debris. There's also hair found in Maddie's bed by her and Kaylee. I heard you briefly talk about the same length of somebody's hair that you believe was found in Ethan's hand.
Yeah, I think
Thoughts
it's one
on
of the fraternity brothers' hair.
What was that?
I think it is one of the people in. So it looks a lot like Barachola's hair,
Okay.
but it could be Jack's hair too. But that yellow, that gold, right? Almost red. It's like you would think it was Murphy's right at first, but it's not. It's not Murphy.
When and Kim, I don't want to hold you hostage either here.
You're not. You're
Okay,
fine.
okay. So is there anything I don't just want to keep saying, is there anything that you've heard that you haven't said? But I guess one of the things that I've always wondered about too is in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and when kids talk, there must have been one rumor that made its way to being the most talked about or the most theorized onto what happened. I mean, if you watch even the mainstream media documentaries, these people are like, well, yeah, we were all sitting around talking about like who could have did it or this is what we think.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the shakedown for you?
It was, you know what? It was their lack of fear, right?
Okay.
Because they didn't have any, so they knew it was targeted, right? I mean, that's all I could assume. I said, whatever happened it was only going to be them. It wouldn't be like my daughter said, like screamed at me. It wouldn't be Will and I. It just wouldn't. And I'm like, that. How do you know that? And she said, I just do, which only leads me, and I can't push her too much, right?
Mhm.
Because I know she didn't do it. She wasn't present, and I can only get her to. But I know she wouldn't leave parents and families hanging. I know my kid, but anyway, now I went off the trails again.
No, you're fine.
But anyway, so did I answer the question?
Yeah. So I was wondering,
What do I know? Oh,
well, not what do you know, but I was just curious as far as in the beginning when the kids were talking, what was the rumor that bubbled up right away? Because I feel like as kids are talking, right, you talked about the Snapchat. It was like, oh my God, 4 kids were stabbed. Was there an initial like, this is what happened?
that was it.
It was okay. So that
They
you had
never
heard.
talked.
Under,
They really rarely talked about it unless they were like at my house, because a lot of times they would come to our house to the airport. So we had them quite a bit. And yeah, they would talk to me because I would sitting there listening and just listen and, and report whatever I heard that, well, I reported everything, but no, I wish there was something because I would tell you because that would lead us there faster. We'd get a resolve faster. The rumors are that that's where you go if you're gonna buy. It's a party house. Pullman really stopped going there about 2 or 3 years ago, because of well, they never went to the corner club, and I didn't ask her why, but obviously she knew better. And they had a lot of stuff on trafficking, a lot of it, for as far as programming goes. Do I think there's a trafficking thing? Probably. I do think that was what they were going to do with Maddie, and that was going to be a lesson not to owe them money again.
Okay, so I see. Essentially, your story has stayed very, I guess, similar throughout this, right? I mean, there's rumors going on campus. There's going to be a shakedown. There's drugs involved, and then outside of the little details, really. One of the most profound things that I've heard you say is that you believe Jack Showalter was smoking a cigarette outside and was forced to do something so that he couldn't snitch.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe, I mean, that's just crazy. And so Hive, help me out. I mean, as far as questions, I feel like I threw a lot at Kim. Is there anything that I didn't answer, or is there anything that, I mean, and think about something that Kim might actually be able to help with too, as I say.
Right. And I just want to be, and here's the thing. I will never ever tell a lie intentionally or an untruth intentionally, and always apologize if I'm incorrect about something. All I have is the knowledge I have, and most of it has been proven to be true over time, right? So I trust, and it's not me, it's the kids I'm speaking for, not myself. It's what they're telling me that I'm just turning around and sending to the authorities.
Do you believe the cops are involved?
Yes.
Not just in the cover up.
Yes. I believe
Okay.
the owner of the home is involved, not just in the car. I mean, that white car, I'm sorry, there are not coincidences like that. That's crazy sauce. The owner of the home also owned the wrecked um, white car in Oregon. Sorry, that's too coincidental. That's crazy.
Have you read Broken Plea yet or no?
I've started it. Yeah, I've started it. I just
Okay.
got it in. So I have started it. But
Okay. What about a lot of people will bring up Dylan's quote unquote boyfriend Quinn? Anything on that?
I have many, many questions about Quinn and his father and his uncle, who's in prison for murder right now, who was arrested over between this time frame, or not arrested, but maybe sentenced. I mean, I don't. But yeah, I do. He comes from a very violent background.
Okay. Another question that's coming up a lot. I'm just kind of glancing at the chat, seeing what is flying by. One of them also had talked about it. Was it live streamed? And I had asked Chris Whitcomb this. Obviously, he's the author of the book Broken Plea. He said no, and he said it rather quickly. Did you hear that rumor from just the general community, or did you actually hear that ever from somebody directly that might have more, I guess, insight for boots on the ground? They heard this.
Well, I'd actually need my notes at that point for that, because I would have written down where I didn't have any problem calling the school and the people in the offices and admin at all. I mean, honestly, I'm paying you. You, the president of the school, you need to call me back, because, you got my kid's future in your hands here. What's going on? So it's probably somebody, I'll have to look before I give you the name. I'm sure I have it.
As far as it may have been recorded, live streamed.
Oh, I don't believe I saw it live streamed.
Okay. Well, Kim, honestly, I could keep you up here all night and ask a bunch of questions. I now feel like we're kind of getting a little bit into the weeds of the question, but and we're already at 2 hours. I wanted to just say thank you so much for popping up tonight and being willing to share that. Obviously, I've seen your name in the chat a lot as I'm live. So, call-in shows or anything else, or, my email is birdieshivemind@gmail.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have anything or hear anything, or if you know anybody that wants to, come on the stream and talk about it. We're more than happy to host them here.
Okay, I will absolutely. And thank you for having me up in your chat. I haven't seen it, but I haven't heard anything nasty. So, and honestly, nasty people, you know what? I don't care. I'm 6 years old. There's so many other things to worry about. I just don't care. But
yeah.
I really appreciate that people are listening, right? That it's good that this discrepancy with the schools and transparency and parents not knowing is really, it's still out there. If you have the right guy, it wouldn't be out here.
Yeah. And I think too, Kim, just, I guess no filter. One of the most important things that I think you do is that you have a daughter that went to WSU. You've been through the gauntlet of it. You've spoken the same story, as close to the same story as you probably could after, time has gone on. And you're now seeing kind of a different receiving of what people say about your story, which I'm sure probably feels somewhat vindicating for you.
I didn't need to be vindicated. I mean, somebody once said, I'm like, I don't care. I just care that they find the people. But I guess, right? But I don't know.
Ultimately, that
It is nice. It's nice to be liked,
Yeah.
but it's more nice. It's nicer to be liked than not, right?
Right. And you were calling it, even if some of the stuff that you say, like many of us have, whether you're in the chat commenting stuff or me saying stuff or you talking on the phone about it, even if not all of it's right, you want to know what we were right on is that what we were told happened didn't happen, and people are bringing awareness to it.
Right. And so if I know something and I hear something you say or what somebody in chat says, then it might connect, right? It might make it make sense.
Absolutely. And Kim, again, thank you so much for the time. I'm going to put you back down in the chat. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening. Take care.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Wow. It's a lot to unpack, Hive. And so that's one of my favorite things to happen is when we have a stream planned. And while, yes, it's nice, especially coming off of the King Road File series that I did, where I'm talking about Brian Koberger a bunch, and it's very structured and it's me presenting. This was really refreshing to have an impromptu call from WSU Mom Kim. And I'm grateful for the time that she said. And whether you agree with her or not, it's not for me to decide. I'm asking her questions that I've been curious about, that you all have been wondering about, and we want to get answers. Go back, listen to this. Maybe she said something that now you can connect the dots. But really, I appreciate everybody tuning in this evening. Tomorrow night, I will be back on at 7 p.m. Central. I'll be starting the next series of the King Road Files, starting to talk about and build my theory of the timeline. Given now what we've learned with Broken Plea, I kind of paused on doing that and went down the funding route on how Brian Koberger is potentially attached to this crime. Now I want to figure out where the hell Ethan and Xana were. So that's what this series is going to be about. Don't miss it. 7 p.m. Central tomorrow night. I will see you then. Sleep good, everybody. Cheers.